001, we're on our way to meet a guy named Larry. His father, Larry Sayre, recently passed away, and apparently he's got cars, Petroliana, and all kinds of stuff that's right up our alley. Howdy, you Larry. Yet. How are you doing? Good. Larry explained that collecting runs in his family. His grandfather collected Indian artifacts, so as a kid, he spent a lot of time going to auctions. Later his dad got him into yard sales, flea markets, and all kinds of collecting. Collecting's in my veins, he said. It's just in your genes. Then Larry showed us something incredible. Now we're talking? Robbie Wolf shouted. You're kidding, right? Oh, man. Sitting there was a 1963 split-window Corvette. Some people love the very first Corvette models from 1953, but for Robbie, the 63 split window is the top of the mountain. The most collectible, and one of the most expensive Corvettes ever made. Frank looked it over carefully. Is this a numbers matching car? Larry shook his head. The engine's a 64. I know that. So it's not the original engine, Frank replied. And you've been working on it. I see the air cleaner and some other parts are off.
Yeah?
Larry said. I had to replace the heater core. You've got to pull the battery out, and it's a real pain. Robbie nodded. Oh yeah, half the dash has to come out for that job. Even standing still? The Corvette looked fast. It was one of the most iconic cars in American history, as American as apple pie. Larry proudly explained 340 horsepower. 4 speed. Frank noticed signs that the car had been sitting for a while. Mold covered parts of the interior, and it had clearly been repainted at some point. Whoever restored it painted it, Frank said, but this might actually be the original color. It is. Larry answered confidently. I know that for sure. There it is, Robbie said, admiring the famous split-window design. Frank smiled as memories came back to him. I remember the first time I ever saw one of these. I was about 14 years old. A guy down the street had one, and every time I saw him, he had a different girl riding with him. Robbie laughed. That's the one thing you remember, huh? Larry pointed out some of the options. It's got power windows. Then he added, it's a 340 horse 4-speed. They only made about 10,000 tubes in 1963, and it was the first year Corvette even made a coupe. Before that, they were all convertibles. Frank nodded. Honestly, it just needs a really good detail job and some mechanical work. Since the engine wasn't original, Frank considered it more of a driver, quality car than a high-end collector piece. If it had the matching numbers motor, he explained, the value would be a lot higher. Still, that didn't scare him away. You want to drive these cars, Frank said. If they just sit around, they rot. That's how they end up moldy like this. Larry agreed. Frank asked about the condition. How'd it drive? Clutch good. Transmission shift okay? Yeah, Larry answered. Everything ran fine. What about the brakes? Frank asked. Sometimes when these cars sit too long, the brakes lock up. Surprisingly, Larry said, this one didn't have any issues. After thinking for a moment, Frank finally asked the big question. Would you ever sell it? Larry sighed. I'd have to think hard about it. Frank explained his reasoning. Since the Corvette didn't have the original engine, he valued it more as a driver than a premium collector car. I think this car is probably worth somewhere between $42,000 and $47,000, he said. I'd need to be in it around $37,000, because I've got to put money into repairs plus shipping. He continued, once I fix it up, I'll probably be into it for around $43,000. Larry hesitated. My dad loved this car. It was probably one of his favorites. After a pause, Frank made another offer. I'll throw this out there. $39,500. Larry understood Frank's point about the missing original engine hurting the value. But sentimentally, the car meant more than money. It's not even really about the money, he admitted. Sentimental value, Robbie added quietly. Larry nodded. Yeah, Frank asked. So what's your number? Larry explained how much work and effort he'd put into rebuilding his father's collection over the years, while raising small kids. "I spent years piecing everything together," he said. "Buying things back, hauling stuff home from Hershey, all of it. Finally, he gave his number. 41,000. But even then, Larry struggled with the idea of selling it. "I'd really like to keep it in the family," he admitted. Frank understood completely. Once family gets involved, money can't really buy it anymore. Larry smiled and said he wanted his son to drive the car someday and experience its power. He wanted to pass that same passion down to his kids. The same passion he shared with his father and sister growing up. In the end, the deal didn't happen. Frank thanked Larry for showing them the collection and listening to the offer. "Life's all about timing," Frank told him. "If things ever change, give me a call." Larry smiled. "I will." As they said goodbye, Larry reflected on how much his father would have liked Frank and Robbie. "Who would have gotten along with those guys really well," he said. "They've got the same passion he did."